So we're going to talk first a little bit about greatsword construction. Right? So typically most greatswords are 6 feet in length. That is an SCE-ism, right? So that we can fight in 6 feet and under classes, right? Historically, greatswords were about up to as tall as your nose, right? And that's so that you can do this shot without hitting the ground, right? With this, if I'm from a middle guard and I do that, I'm going to hit the ground, right? Or I'm going to very nearly hit the ground. Right? So with the shorter bastard sword, I can do that shot, that big nice circle, and still get out, right? But we lose too much versatility. Greatsword handle length is really important because we've got a big long lever, right? We need to be able to move quickly, right? And this is probably the heaviest greatsword you're ever going to pick up, right? And I move it without an issue, right? Because I have a length. So that minimum length of a greatsword should be from your elbow up to your wrist. Right? So this length here should be about the minimum that you ever get. That length is too long because it's this length, so that I can use the same mechanics. Right? And at a bare minimum, you should have one gauntleted hand space between those two hands. Right? And that is because you're going to pick up a lot of shots. You're going to defend by you blocking here or by sliding down and blocking. Right? This far corner block is not this, which everyone does, because now you can't recover very fast. It's just this small slide, and then you're here and you can pop it. Okay, right? So it's just like that. Okay. So greatsword construction, 6 feet, right? With the thrusting tips. You want to keep the weight down as much as you can, right? So you already have plenty of lever and plenty of weight. This is heavy because it's a trainer, right? With a heavy weapon, you can't fake body mechanics, right? You have to do stances for greatsword. There are 3 major stances, and there's a 4th one that you see a lot of in the outlands and out west. One of them is very important, and it is the most uncomfortable, and that's what I call high guard, right? And that's straight up, you're looking between your hands. Right? So it is real high, and you're looking between. And you feel very vulnerable, right, when we sit here, and that is because you're still thinking about sword range, right? So you feel vulnerable when we're up here because you think that you're going to intercept at the normal location. That's not it. Instead of making this parry, close to your body, you want to make that parry out away, right? You want to be able to do that. Right? And the reason this is the most important is from here you can throw any shot. Right? We can throw any shot that we want to. And one of the things that, were you saying in the last class, a greatsword is just a single sword? Someone said it earlier today, but a greatsword is just a big, giant single sword that you're holding with your top hand. Right? So any shot that you can throw with your dominant hand, with your top hand, is the same shot with a greatsword. Right? So if you think about a flat snap, right? You think about that mechanic, right? And without just having your hand attached to the sword, not holding it, and you're throwing that same mechanic, it's the exact same, right? You're not trying to muscle it through. And then once you understand that that's the motion you need to, then you can drive with your bottom hand, right? You can power with your bottom hand and drive with your top hand. And the key to all two-handed weapons is that the hand that is on top is driving, right? It's not the engine, it's the wheels, it's the steering wheel. It points blade orientation and where this blade is going to go. The engine, right, is at the end of the lever, right? It is providing the force that you need and providing, when you hit reverse it. Circle. Okay? So, high guard. And what we'll see a lot of in high guard is we'll see people start in high guard and get tired, right? So the 2 worst things that you can do in high guard are get tired and do this. You can see my arms go from nice angles, right, that are really hard to hit, right? You're not going to hit them, to big flat spaces that you're going to break, right? So pushed out, and that looks like it's pushed out from the body, and it hurts, right? It is hard to hold it there. right? So hit the guy.
Right? Get it over.
And then the other thing that we see a lot of people do is in high guard, they will either cheat forward or they'll cheat back. So anyone who's done kendo or kenjutsu, which is where I started before this, wants to kind of cheat back because that's how our strikes start. We have so much momentum and such a large stick that we don't need to do that, right? We want to take as much of the tell out of that as possible, so it needs to stay straight up, right? And then you don't want to cheat one way or the other, because then we're just telling him where we're going to go, right? And maybe if you decided to do that, if I'm fighting Walrick, I am going to do that. I'm going to do this so that hopefully he blocks that way and I can go the other side, right? But we want to start in the center so that we can go either direction with that strike. So that's high guard, straight up, looking through your hands, and that's the easy check, right? When I'm tired, this will start to come down, and I can see my hand, and now it's time to reset. Right? That's up. The one that most of us see is middle guard, right? Which is down in front. We feel safe, you know. We feel like we've got a little handled 6-foot spear, and the problem is that our backhand is against our hip, right? And now we have no shots, right? We have this little flick, which he knows we have, right? And this little leg shot, right? So this is a great transition, you know, just like our, you know, the apostrophe with a sword and shield. Wonderful transition, don't stand there, right? So we really, if we're here, it's to ward you off and then come back. Right? So we can, or if we're going to engage with tip play, right? If you're fighting a spear, if you're fighting a glaive, we can transition here, right? Control your tip, and then do something, okay? Low guard, which is really mostly to stop charging, right? So I will sit in low guard when I know that line is full of spear or shieldmen, right? Because they don't think I'm a threat when I'm here, right? He wants to charge me, right? I can put all of my force into a shield and knock him over, right? And I still have all of the blocks that I would normally have, right? But they come up. And then the force style that is back guard or tiger by the tail that we see a lot of in the outlines is back behind you. It's the same thing that you would be doing with a blade. And the idea here is to hide your blade, right? So it's not out in front of you, right? It's back behind you. Again, your hip, your hands aren't against your hip, right? If they're close against your hip, you have nowhere to go, right? So they're out, the tip is behind you, and you're waiting for them to move. And this is another one of those that you don't stand in measuring, right? You are standing, so for us, I am standing here. You have to take a step to hit me, right? And on that step, I'm going to respond, okay? Questions about any of those? Comments?
The one thing that I always struggle with is, I fight spear.
Right.
I don't fight greatsword.
Yep.
I always want to put my right hand on the bottom. So whenever I'm fighting, I'm doing this.
So it's something that you should be doing, right? You should be transitioning between the two. And the thing you'll see me do is if I'm fighting Mortigan, the first thing I do is change my hands. Because he's better right hand forward, right? Well, now we're just playing the lefty game, right? All my defenses are on this side. All of his defenses are on that side. So you can swap hands. What you're going to run into is the same thing with a lefty, right? If we're both right-handed in mid-guard, we both feel safe. We can't throw the same... We throw shots into a defense, right? If we're here, we're now throwing shots into an open, so you have to be more aggressive. But there's nothing wrong with fighting left hand high, just like you
Because the thing, and I'm sure this is just training, but when I'm right hand on top, I feel like I've got power and control, and I want to hack. Right? But I do not feel like I can poke at all. Because then I'm basically left-handed. So I feel, and this feels weird to me. So, but then when I switch this way, it's the opposite. Now I'm all about thrusting but I can't hack. Right, and so, as soon as I switch my hands, I'm telling them what I'm doing. I'm about to poke, or I'm about to chop.
A lot of that is training. That's how it works, right? And it's a matter of, so what I do with Greatsword Pell is I'll throw the shots, the full 8 shots, one-handed.
So is it a lot more common then for greatsword people to be able to fight both directions?
You should be able to fight both directions.
Part of fighting
Part of greatsword.
You're able to do
just
that.
like a good glaveman, right? Okay. If I go up against Titus, it's the same thing. I'm not fighting right hand forward because he's better than I am. I'm going to switch, right? And now he has to change his game, right? The other thing that we see a lot of in tossing, most people when they want to chop, right? They want to do this big, thing. Well, we have a big lever. And if I miss that shot, right, we want a snap, right? We want that to be super quick, and Alexander's a perfect example of that, right? He'll snap out and get back before you can respond. The other thing you want to do, and it's my preferred style, is big circles, right? Is that if I'm throwing a shot at you and missing, I am not returning along this angle. I am making a pass, right? And it is coming completely behind me. And the secret to stay alive is to keep it moving and keeping the center of the blade in front of you, right? So my defense is my greatsword, right? And as long as it's in between me and you, right, I can keep myself alive. And I do that by throwing this shot. It misses, right? And I return, and through that whole return, I have a blocking surface. Right? So I am just circling around. Right? So the key to that, right, the right hand forward, that comes down over your shoulder. This comes up, and then you're back right where you were. And the other side is under your shoulder and right back.
You look like you're taking this class of greatsword.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oregon's done this several times.
Yeah, once or twice. So big circles, right? Know that you can make those returns, right? And then the other fundamental issue that certainly sword and shield fighters who transition to great swords have an issue with is that your offense and defense should be happening at the same time, right? You shouldn't be blocking and responding, parrying and reposting. You should be parrying during the shot, right? So if you're throwing a shot at me, right, just a straight down, I can block and then strike, but then you're just going to block. And when I do this big chopping thing, what I should be doing is you're throwing that shot, and I'm going to hit you. I'm
Blocking and attacking.
blocking and attacking at the same time, and it's a matter of controlling that angle, right? I know that just a little tiny tip, right? I'm going to block that and hit.
Every block is a shot.
Every block is a shot, and when I get tired, I go back to sword and shield mode, right? Because it's easy. I can block all day long. I got a 6-foot stick, right? But always keep in mind that every time you're blocking, you should be throwing a shot. And if you're not, think what you missed, right? Why was that? And it's actually easier with the axe. Right? My Norman axe is my favorite weapon because you can do all of that and hook, right? And grapple. Right? You can't. What do you mean?
I don't know. I just kind of.
Okay.
What level are you at?
What about your tip?
So I always.
That's a personal question.
Not your tip, his tip. You can tell me about his tip if you really know.
Always have a thrusting tip, in my opinion, especially a 6-foot greatsword, right? I have a tendency to be kind, right? If you're thrusting a shieldman, it's usually a win, right? You're usually going to thrust and miss or stop him. He's going to charge you. You still have time to block and escape. Right? Thrusting a faster weapon, a spear, a glaive, I would do it occasionally, right? It's a tool, but it's the tertiary tool, right? I want to command the situation. And the other issue that, and this is my own personal fighting style, I prefer to fight greatsword either at measure or near. Right? Because we can control, we have a big long lever, right? I've got all this leverage, all of that, and 2 big quillions to tie up his arms. Right? I can feel where his hips are, move them, and then strike him as he's trying to get away. Because inevitably that's what's going to happen. Right? You're going to close with someone, you're either going to stop this fight immediately, or one of you is going to try to escape, and when you escape, you did exactly what everyone does. Look. Right? And I'm going to go pop! So the tip is important, but it shouldn't be the focus. It should be tertiary.
How much in the weapon control?
Little. You want to get some weapon? Sure, go ahead. Yep.
So, you got the basics down. This works best when you're fighting another long weapon, greatsword or glaive, when you get in close. So we're going to get in close, right? So from here, I can hook you, right, with the quillions, or I can hook you, and from here, go ahead and try and throw a shot. You can't, right? Try and escape. You can't, right? So you have to do such exaggeration to get out of it that you've completely negated your defense all the way. Right? So, hooking with the pommel or hooking with the top quillion or the front quillion. It's if you're going to do with the front quillion, it's a shot. So I'm going to get in here. This is the shot, right? So I'm trying to hook it and throw the shot at the same time. So I'm hooking with this. Now I'm just trying to control you and make the shot happen, right? So I'm going to work you around, and let's go. The other big kind of weapon control thing that I like to do, I call it like the snake charmer. So for here, right? So I started leaning. You didn't lean with your greatsword, but you moved your greatsword, right? Ooh. Right? So I call it the snake charmer because almost invariably somebody's going to go bang, right?
Yeah, and see, with that leaning, you're still keeping your guard in front of your body.
You haven't changed anything, right? So lean with it, but almost invariably your opponent just moves their weapon because they're trying to follow you.
So you're not just leaning like this. You just did it. You're leaning like this. So you're bringing the tip, but you're moving underneath where that is.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm not. What I'm doing is I'm saying my guard is locked. Yep. And then just rotate at the hip.
Okay.
Right. Just bending at the hip. Yeah.
And when you did that time, you didn't move your hips. The first time you did it, and you did it just now locking. You were rotating your hips, so you're kind of underneath it.
And so
you're not just. I'm not just doing this.
So if I'm here and I'm not moving my hips, right? I'm doing this, so I can move my hips.
Yeah.
Right. But if I do this, your weapon's still going to follow. Right. But now I came out from underneath it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a little give and take then. But it's all about feeling your opponent out and seeing that, and then let's go. And if I start doing this, if you don't move, or you move with your weapon at the same time, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm not going to do it anymore. Snake charmer's not working on you. How many guards did you talk about? Front guard and high guard? Okay, so you didn't talk about the tail? Dragon tail? Okay.
I didn't talk about queen blocks, which I should.
Okay, so I'll talk about this thing. Most shots, greatsword and greatsword, are going to start out coming straight down. That's my block. That's it.
It actually works with the accent.
Right. And if you'll notice, I'm not turning my top hand, I'm turning my bottom hand. Okay? Because I want my top hand to be kind of loose. It's what controls my weapon most of the time. It's much easier to let go of your bottom hand and do it. I don't know if you started out with the greatsword is nothing but a really big single sword in your top hand. Your bottom hand is there just for extra, right? So I'm just rotating with my bottom hand so that I can still, keep all the control with my top hand. So I can do this, right? And sometimes that's the block. To get over there, right? What else? So dragon tail is more of a kind of along the lines of snake charmer, right? So it seems like I'm really open. I'm kind of open. Anything coming in on this side is going to be harder to block, but everything over here, very easy to block. That's it, right? Everything coming over. And you can even block all the straight down shots coming that way. Do the leg blocks. Okay. I think that's kind of it that I can think of. What you might have already thought. I think the biggest thing for me to think about is just this really big single sword in your top hand, including throwing wraps. You can throw a wrap with a greatsword. You can throw a wrap. Huh?
Did you let go with your bottom hand?
You do. You have to. I mean, you can if you're doing a pass. I can throw back edge without letting go. Right, but it's really hard to get power that way. And notice that my top hand has to really relax to get it out there. But I can throw it. I can start with the small circle fake. Throw that wrap, right?
You're gonna whip it with your
you're throwing it.
Right, so it's
Throwing it with my bottom hand.
start a little further up.
Bending my ring up here.
So what about vacuum blade and stuff like this?
So shovel shots are all in there. They usually happen after you're in the enclosed tangle. So you get in there, right? And I get here. And I bring you down. Now I've got control of your greatsword. That's my shot. Right, coming back up. The problem with those is even when I get down there and I get this, look at where his quillion is.
Right.
That's my shot. So it could very easily get blocked. It can happen, but they're rare. It's rare that you get in a position where the shovel shot is the best shot. The other times is when you can invert your grip, and then you can start dragon tail, and then it's all about the horde. All you're doing is throwing a bow, right? So there, you can get all your blocks in. You can get all these ones in, which are harder angles to try and defend against. But it's a much more difficult style to really stay defensive with. Again, because you're in the dragon tail. This is where you're going to comfort with the door shots.
One thing I was asking about is switching hands because I like to press the position and chop now, and basically got to be saying that you ought to be able to fight with both.
When I'm facing a non-mass weapon on the other side, if I'm facing a sword and shield, right? So you're right-handed sword and shield guy. This is where all my blocks are, but the majority of my shots are coming in on the shield side. It's hard, right? So I might do this, I might get in there, you might charge me, I'm going to shovel you away with my grip, and then you didn't notice that I switched my grip. Now all of my attacks are coming on your sword side. You can do that also when you get in close with other mass weapons. I can hook you, let go, grab the half to yours. It doesn't work out. I'm going to come out, still in guard. I've still got control of my weapon, right? But now I'm switched up, and you also didn't necessarily see that I switched up. Now my attacks are coming from different angles.
Do you generally switch your grip a lot during a fight?
Not a lot. I don't personally, but sometimes I do. And sometimes I'll come out and you and I will face off, and your top hand is your left top hand. Well, this is not going to work out for me, so I'm going to immediately switch. I don't care if you saw. Nah, I just want to be in a better guard for the majority of your shots, right? You talk about the drop thrust. So this is a good one as kind of an initial shot, especially against other great weapons. Or Florentiners really fall for this a lot. So you have a thrusting tip on there. I do what's called a drop thrust. I'm going to swing at your head, but I'm way out of range, right? Or I'm going to be here. Now I'm suddenly significantly closer, right? I'll do it with this hand because it hurts less, right? So I'm here. That's obviously not hitting you, but now I can touch you, right? Especially because you are the shorter range guy, you got to get in there. So I'm going to drop thrust. And all you're doing is just dropping the point in and then thrusting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Just allowing you to get that extra.
Yeah. And it's super effective, especially against Florentiners. The Florentiners fall for so many things.
Do you do anything particular to recover? So if you're doing that drop throw, right? You're talking about your circle movement.
So I don't let go when I drop thrust. My hands go down, right? Which invariably doesn't gain me as much, but I don't let go because I can circle. Right? Yeah. So I'll do that, and if I miss, right, and especially if you're Florentine, you block that. Right now you're jumping me. Well, what I am doing is I'm doing that circle motion while pushing on your swords, right? So you're right. I'm going to push on those swords, and then I'm going to plow you. Right? It doesn't matter if I hit you or not, right? If I drop that whole thing on you, you're going to stop. Right?
You went over big circles, small circles?
I didn't go over small circles.
Okay, so big circles are a way to continue the motion and come back into a guard right away, right? So you're throwing that big shot. Throwing that big shot, coming back. You can also throw this big shot and stop the circle halfway through and start it again. Throw a second shot. Okay, harder, but you can do that. Small circles are fakes. Okay, so they're all about pump fake. If you can pump fake with a sword, the pump fake with a greatsword is a circle. So we're here, that's all I'm doing. It's that much. You do that, especially against a Florentiner, they go, huh? Throw bull swords out there. That's my shot. Right? So it's just a little circle. Yep. Boom, boom. Right? And you can try it both directions. Right? But it's all about the fluidity of motion. So same with the big circles. You're trying to come back, get back in guard, get back to that shot. The small circles are all, that's my shot. So there's a small circle. You thought I was going high, now I'm going low. You thought I was going high, I'm going low. You can even circle down. This is a small circle, right? What does it look like I'm doing with this? I'm going to come down low, right? So that's my small circle, and then come high. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've adjusted.
Yeah. So it's hard to change direction. Just keep that part in mind. So make sure that all your shots, all your fakes, all your circles are fluid. You don't try to stop them. But every once in a while, somebody's going to pick up on your motions. They're going to pick up, you're throwing big circles, so you keep throwing circles, circles, circles. Then it's all about making pattern, breaking pattern. It happens across whatever weapon player, right? And so I actually just witnessed this being shot to me at Lily's this year. So we're coming in. Right? So, I mean, my intention, I never want to hit anyone in the cup. I want to get you in the leg or in the lower ribs. But that's we're engaged. You think I'm going to come in and start pressing. And I kind of press and just drop it down.
You got that same, the guard is still in front of you, it's still covered. Right. And it's
yeah. So that leads back to the big circle thing where everything's still there. Right? Now I do this big shot. And it came in underneath your guard. You did not expect to come in. That's all the heckling I was going to do.
That's fair. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Hellwork.
So I suggest throwing the same 8 shots you throw with a single sword, right? And the best thing that you can do is just to make single sword. Throw the single sword shots, right? Throw them slow. Try to understand the mechanics, right? And then work in big circles. Right? So how I work in big circles is I stand. I'm gonna work at a range where I can hit that one. I can hit just with a tip, but it's not close and like that, right? So I'm hitting with a tip and a tip. And I change the feet while I'm doing it. I'm making contact with the cup, right? It is always hitting that, recycling back, and coming back to my home guard, right? And I'm gonna work on whatever that shot happens to be, right? And recycling. Lots and lots of trouble, and then the big circles are probably the hardest for people to get their brains around. And it's really just sitting in that center and ensuring that you always have a piece of that weapon in front of you. Whatever you're doing, there is some blocking bit there. And you're always returning back to the guard that you're starting with, always returning to the guard.
You mentioned that while you're doing that, you're changing your feet. Why are you changing your feet?
I changed the feet out of habit since the drill I'm working now. That was so that during that shot, I'm making a pass, so that then this guy has a longer range. It's just including a pass into the shot, and that's the control of measure, right? Is probably your greatest tool with great sword. Because you have such a long striking weapon. Most people can't eyeball measure very well, right? So if you can sneak that in, just this, right? Now I'm where I can hit you with either set of swords, right? Where here I'm not.
Changing your feet and all that, if you can do that while in motion, your opponent has a far less chance of seeing what happens again. It's like you completely change the range, you change the angle, you change everything that they have started out realizing. So, the shield guy, we're up here. Okay, he did that, and he's moved, he changed his angle. Now, the shots that were coming in at this angle on this side are now coming in at this angle, which is all the difference. And all I'm trying to do is be efficient with my rocket, right?
So we'll talk a little bit about the close, right? So I really like to fight up close. That's because I'm a shield person. I like fighting there, right? Generally, the greatsword that's on top is going to win the fight, right? And we know that a little bit, right? We know that if you can get on top, I can kind of control this and do something. What that ends up being is that we play this game, right? And now we're both up and standing, and neither of us can push, right? And the easy thing that we can always do from here is keep this in measure, and I'm not going to play any fancy hooking games. I'm just going to drop low. Right? You think you're on top.
Right. Now you get leverage.
And now now I have all the leverage in the world, right? And all I need is one step, right? I need one step, right? And then I can
get them off balance.
I would add another technique to that. Sure. That seems back to switching your hands, right? So we get in here, we're way up high. What did I just do?
Yeah. He just won the fight. Now I'm on top. Even though my greatsword is physically under you, I'm on top. Okay? This motion.
Right? That's hard to do with this hand here, with your greatsword being there, right? Now everything's in the way. That's right.
Nice.
So,
40th birthday party, so we're 40.
Alright.
And we're 40 hands.
So, but when you get in there and you're way up high, right? I'm not paying attention to the hand, right? That was it. Now, I lost an arm, or a shoulder and a head. So that's the switch in the hands.
Yeah, now here.
Getting in there, do that. Just another technique for when you get in and you're pressed up high. I would even drop down because the better greatsword guys are going to notice, they're going to feel the shoulders drop, they're going to drop with you. But if you drop and change your hands, it was even another distraction. Right? Oh, I noticed you dropped, so we're going to both stand up, and I'm just going to bring it down, right? Now I'm suddenly on top.
One of the things that I run into a lot with sword and shield guys is they really want to close. Right? They want to, and they don't want to close to their measure. They want to close all the way, right? All the way in because they feel safe. And all you have to do is punish them once and they'll never do it again, right? But they feel safe because they can't hit me here, right? They don't want to stop here, which is where they should, right? Because now all of my advantages have been taken away, and they have a shield, right? All of these shots are not helping me, right? I'm either going to escape, right? But they will all come here, and now I have control over their weapon, right? And the vast majority of shots that they're going to throw, right? Assuming that they're right-handed, I can block all day long, right? I just pick up some energy off of them and stay here until one of us fakes the other.
And then it's all about you can control their shield.
Right, yeah, from here, right?
From when they're closed in, because now they're pressed in.
Right, they're pressed in. Most of the time, my elbow sneaks over the top of their shield, it pushes down, and I hit them in the head.
So you really feel at a disadvantage with a couple of feet in between you and...
Yes, at your measure, as a sword and shield, that is not where I want to fight.
Because it's changing. You don't have the advantage of being outside of my range, but
that's
the
right.
angles are bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't have...
Right.
Yeah, because I always charge in. I didn't realize that's better for you.
That is your best position.
Because what can I not do when we're 2 feet away? Is I can't control you. I can't control your shield. I can't control your weapon.
Right.
We're not locked
And you don't have the range advantage anymore either.
And I don't have the range advantage. And now I have a big stick to try and move to make a block. Right?
A big stick with a small handle. Right?
Right. You get in all the way. I can now control you. I can control the fight from super close. I may have a significantly shorter or smaller number of shots that I can throw, but I can also make sure that you can't do anything, which is more important to me. So if I can make sure that you can't do anything, then separate us, right? Then I've got the fight.
What are you generally going to do when you find yourself in that spot as the greatsword guy? Are you bailing out or are you jumping in?
So if you mean if we get a couple feet?
Yeah, if we're at that kind of bad range for you.
So the majority of what I'm going to try and do is J step to your shield side.
Okay.
To try and get out of it. Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll switch it up and jade step to your sword side so I can get that shot in.
Gotcha.
Other times I will close it so I can throw it. I can hook your shield,
Whoosh.
right? So it's all, but what's going to happen is we're going to start out, what I'm going to do personally, we're going to start out, this is about how far we're going to be at lay-on of a tournament, right? You decide you're going to quickly change the distance, right? I've got a way bigger range advantage on you. I can then direct you on what direction you're going to go on changing that distance. So you're going to come at me, whoop, now you're over there, still at my distance, right?
You just leaning on them when you do that?
Yeah. So I'm going to plant the pommel into that side hip. Then I can push. Right, because then at that point it's all about shoulder area. You'll realize later. Sometimes, if I'm in a desperate enough situation and they're coming in, I'm going to try and get them away from me as quick as I can. Yeah. Also, sometimes when you face a particular kind of animal, sometimes called a rhino, shoulder shots are what they do.
I think the handle's a little long. You can work with it. So the problem with any length greater than this one, it's this length, so that when you throw these shots, right, so when I'm throwing those big reverse shots, right, I can get the whole thing around, right, and really it's not this one. This one's easy. It's this, right, and this one, if it's any longer than the end of your elbow, right, you're going to have to, right, and you're now using
So, as a change on the weapon that I might do is I might bring the pulling down a little bit, but then add a response.
Yeah.
So you can still get the
hand there if you want. And that's super. It's way easier to flip from this to this if you're going over your equilibrium, rather than trying to stay under your equilibrium. Yeah, it's way easier. So that's where I would use the percussive.
What's your opinion on counterweight versus butt spike?
So we can't use butt spikes.
Oh.
We can. Bardolph and I just had a conversation.
Did we? Okay.
There is no longer a distinction between blade and greatsword and the
I thought you could do that.
So then my opinion is put a butt spike on it. So the counterweight is important, right? We have a big long lever. It doesn't need to be heavy. You want it as balanced as possible, right? So if counterweight is your only option, put a counterweight. But if you could put a butt spike on it, you should always have a butt spike. Because inevitably, everyone wants to get close, right? This is a really simple action.
Yeah.
It also changes a little bit with that angle of once you go high, you're going to go straight.
Yeah, there's that.
It does.
Add that.
It does.
And to lead into that, that's where changing your hand to now the orc grip, I think, is even better. Because now I've got the sword grip now, and from the top, you think you can butt spike me, now I've got control of your weapon from the left, right? So you're not going to
One of the things
But
that
it's so hard to time it and not just do that.
Yeah.
Because you go, and
they push.
one of the things that kind of got brought up at different times was footwork, and one of the things I always found fun with mass weapons in a tournament versus that is how to not get pushed back onto the ropes. And it's the side steps and being able to use those.
Well, and I didn't cover any of that. I should have. Your biggest control is measure, right? So it's those side steps are fundamental to you controlling that measure, not getting back to the ropes, not getting backed up into something else.
I mean, you kind of mentioned it when someone charges you. You're not
Yeah.
going back.
I'm
You're
going
going
to take,
direction.
ideally what I'd like to do is take 2 steps back, right, 1, 2, and then J step out on the side. When I J step, and when I J step, I'm going to now redirect it. So 1, 2, J step, push it over there. Not only did I move out of your line, but I also moved you away from it. So, and back out to my range. Yeah.
You're generally looking for a reset, though. You're not trying to kill them as they're running past. You're just trying to clear and then reset.
So it's easier to direct somebody from top than it is from bottom. Right. So if I push you on your head, it's way easier to make you fall over the side than if I push you from your head, right? So if I happen to land that shot on your head while I'm doing it, it's not so much a snapshot that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to force you, but absolutely I'm trying to swing at least hard enough to every forward motion of your great sword should be, unless you're throwing a fake, should be a shot.
But to stay safe, you're going high because you can easier to redirect.
It's easier to redirect.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Hopefully we'll see you up there.
Yeah.